Hey YouTube, Simon here once again for the amazing fundamental changes. Today we're going to have a look at 3 licks in the style of the amazing Wes Montgomery. Let's go and check those out just after this. Okay, so Wes Montgomery was an absolute jazz guitar giant. He was doing things that people at the same time as him were just not able to do and hadn't seen before. And I love innovators like that. He inspired people like the wonderful George Benson, who I get to play his signature model. He inspired Pat Metheny, loads and loads of guys who are now giants in their own regard as well. So we're going to look at 3 things today that Wes Montgomery is famous for. Obviously, you could spend a whole hours on YouTube or tons of time within a book discussing all of his techniques. But the 3 things I want to get across today are motifs, octaves, and chord playing. An example 1 there, we saw the idea of a motif. Now, a motif is a simple melodic phrase that can be used to navigate through a chord change. The chord changes that are happening underneath this motif are D minor 7 to G7 twice, and then E minor 7 to A7 twice. A very classic kind of 2-5 pattern going round. This is the opening chord sequence to the famous jazz standard Satin Doll. So what I used here was Wes Montgomery's famous little arpeggio line that he liked to use in a lot of his solos, which is kind of just around D minor arpeggios for the first 2 really, and then he moves it up 2 frets into E minor, almost the same thing, and then ends with a little thing on the A major there where you slide up and create a little 6th idea. So what's great about motifs is you can take on a jazz standard and move one little melodic phrase so you can work your way all the way through a jazz standard without having to worry too much about scales and chords and everything like that. So what I recommend you do is you make sure you learn this in these keys as I've shown you here. But wherever you see a 2-5 now in a progression going between a minor 7 and a dominant 7, a major 2-5, 1 progression, make sure you try out this Wes Montgomery motif in as many different keys as possible. Let's have a look at octaves in example 2. Okay, Wes was famous for many things, but few things more famous than his wonderful, fantastic use of octave playing. Now, the thing I love about octaves are they can be used in jazz, jazz blues, funk, rock, pretty much any style of guitar playing that you might be into. So even if you're not the biggest jazz guy, you can take on these octave ideas and use them in your rock playing as well. So this example here uses an E blues scale, very, very simple idea. Now Wes would use his thumb for all of this. This is what he's famous for using. He'd use the underside of his thumb and he'd kind of brush the strings. It's a technique you can try out. It's not something I do hugely in my own playing, so I opted to finger pick this. You could hybrid pick it with a plectrum and middle finger probably, or you could just use a straight plectrum and strum it. You know, there's many ways to play octaves. You've got to find your own sort of niche groove on how you want to put those together. Very simple little E blues line here, but try it out with distortion and other lines as well. Let's go and have a look at a little chord melody line. Okay, so the way that Wes Montgomery would usually, not always, but often construct his solos is he'd have single note lines, octaves, chords and chord melody. Now this is something that's really cool, all you jazz guys, jazz blues guys, you can start to create solos with a bit of variation in, because often we live in single note land, we don't vary it much. But even if you alternate between going single notes and double stops or octaves and then single notes or double stops and then single notes, you can start to bring in different flavours into your improvisational style. So the chord sequence we've got here is very classic of the kind of chords that Wes Montgomery liked to use. You've got dominant chords, you've got voicings of major sevens, sixths, and some more dominant nine type things on the end there. It's a very, very small sort of snippet of the type of thing that Wes would do by creating almost a little melody line and moving chords up and down the fretboard. Make sure you look at the full article with the tab as well. You can see all the chords written out above the tab there as well. So this is a very brief introduction to the wonderful playing of Wes Montgomery. As I say to all my students, I highly recommend that as you're getting into this sort of style, you make sure you listen to as much of Wes as possible. I've given some recommendations of CDs to listen to and songs that I particularly enjoy. I recently transcribed the solo Satin Doll, which is where the original one came from. I highly recommend, if you're up to it, to transcribing a few of his licks. Slow them down really, really slowly and just try and pick them up by ear, and then you'll never forget them. So I hope you've got something from this Wes Montgomery lesson. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. If there's specific videos you want to see, let us know, because Joseph and I read all your comments. Take care. Speak to you soon. Hi everyone, hope you got something from this lesson on Wes Montgomery. As always, make sure you go and check out Joseph's website, Fundamental Changes, for hundreds of free lessons. Check out my book, Exotic Pentatonic Soloing for Guitar, link in the description, and subscribe here as we'll bring you free videos every week. Take care, see you soon.